flower in a crack of the wall. The church was then, and still is today, a tiny minority. Even today, it is not the Chinese, but the Filipina housemaids gathering for Sunday Mass who give life to the church of Sai Kung, where Freinademetz celebrated his first Mass in Chinese. What especially hurt the young missionary was what the children, and not only them, everywhere, shouted after him: "Foreign devil." Back in his homeland, they had kissed his hand and greeted him with, "Praised be Jesus Christ." Filled with prejudice, he wrote,
"China is really the kingdom of the devil. You can hardly go 10 steps without hearing all kinds of hellish phrases and evil things. The air you breathe here is pagan through and through."
Whether in Sai Kung or in travelling from island to island, he had much time to reflect and learn. The better he mastered the language, the better he came to understand the Chinese people. For a long time he had had a Chinese name. From the first letter of the name Freinademetz, the sign Fu for luck was chosen. From his first name, Joseph, came the word Yoshe, but this was rarely used in combination with the title Shen Fu for priest, and so Joseph Freinademetz became Fu Shen Fu, or lucky priest. In appearance, he became completely Chinese, even wearing a false braid. Yet in all sincerity, he admitted that becoming Chinese was not simply accomplished by dress.
The main task, the transformation of the inner person, is still to be accomplished. To understand the Chinese mind, traditions and customs, and to study their character and talents. This cannot be done in a single day or in a year. It may require some painful surgery.
Age 29, after 2 years in Hong Kong, he wrote his life's program. The man from Tyrol would become Chinese. In May 1881, Freinademetz left Hong Kong. The Divine Word missionaries were given the southern part of the Shantung province as their mission territory. There were some 9 million inhabitants in this extensive territory on the Yellow River, but only 158 Catholics. John Baptist Anzar, who came with Freinademetz from Steyl, became the superior. After learning the different kind of Chinese spoken in Shantung, Freinademetz arrived in Puoli, the future central station of the Divine Word missionaries. As a remote town with fewer than 1,000 inhabitants, Puoli offered very primitive conditions.
My present living quarters is the hut of a Christian from here, built of mud with a thatched roof.
2 years later, thanks to the steady arrival of personnel from Steyl, the main station was much more habitable. Farming methods in South Shantung have changed little in the past 120 years. Then as now, people and animals do the work. The roads are still much the same as they were when the foreign devil from Tyrol travelled from town to town to win for God the great-grandparents of today's inhabitants. They were very hard years for the man from South Tyrol. From 1882 to 1884, and from 1886 to 1890, he was again a wandering missionary. His was a kind of gypsy lifestyle. Accompanied by a half-blind Christian, he travelled by horse or on a donkey, or in an open or closed cart. Wherever he went, he adapted himself to the lifestyle of the people. His luggage was light: a mat, a blanket and a pillow, all he needed for sleeping. Consequently, it was easy for him to lodge in any hut in the nearest village, to share the life of the common people. If today a European comes to a town like Changsun, close to Chufu, he will attract attention, but surely not as much as Fu Shenfu did. In a letter, he wrote,
"But they only come in order to observe the rare European species at close range."
He will certainly have climbed Taishan, the holy mountain of China, in the middle of Shantung, and in doing so he would most probably have thought of the Holy Cross shrine which his father so often visited on foot. For as long as can be remembered, every year thousands have climbed the 6,666 steps leading to the sanctuary of the Jade King, Yu Huangdan, to pray for luck, riches and a long life. Anyone thinking that Mao Zedong succeeded in eradicating the Chinese people's feel for religion will have to reconsider their opinion when they see the many pilgrims at Taishan. Joseph Freinademetz could not have imagined a communist China. He experienced a royal, feudal China whose state doctrines were inspired by the writings of the philosopher Confucius. Confucius died in 497 BC in the very missionary territory of Joseph Freinademetz. His grave has survived the ravages of time. The so-called Confucian scholars were the strongest opponents of missionaries. For them, Christianity was a foreign religion that destroyed traditional China and their authority. Therefore, it had to be opposed by all means. Freinademetz learned from the simple people of the land how to bear solitude. It was solitude in the midst of many people. Wherever he went, he was an object of curiosity and ridicule. The children ran after him in amusement and went unpunished. Only when he returned to the main station, which could be after several months, could he talk with his peers. His missionary trips matured him. Despite the many lonely roads he travelled, despite being plagued by mosquitoes, flies and lice during restless nights, he was able to rejoice, to pray and to meditate. He could still ask himself the important question, why have I come to China? It is not by chance that he compares his situation with Jesus' experience in the desert. In this way, Fu Shenfu from distant Tyrol learned to know and to cherish the Chinese and adapt himself to their mindset, lifestyle and customs. In 1886, he made his perpetual vows. Now he was 34 years old and wrote in his diary,
"So, Brother Joseph, the die is cast. Your whole life is for your beloved Chinese, so that when you die, you can sleep alongside your faithful Chinese. Adieu for the last time. Goodbye, my beloved homeland beyond the seas."
Your entire life is for your beloved Chinese. In these lines, it is not a hero who speaks or wishes to offer himself for China and its mission, but rather one who feels so comfortable among the people from whom he works day and night, that he wishes to be buried among them. They, the Chinese, are the ones for whom he freely and definitely gave up home, family and friends. His sympathy, however, was not rewarded. He openly admits it.
How many times have I been fooled by the Chinese? Lies, dishonesty, betrayal, distortion, misinformation everywhere. You do not know whom to trust.
In spite of that, his faith in the Chinese cannot be shaken, not even when he was almost beaten to death in Shaoxing.
They pulled out my hair, twisted my arms, and someone took a handful of filth from the dung heap and rubbed it